Hey, welcome to the conversation. You're with Andy Mason, and this is authentic conversations around the messy intersection of faith, family, and business. And I have a special guest with me today, Jeff Borglin, whom I got to meet on one of the trips that I recently did. As a part of Heaven and Business, I get to do workshops, events, retreats all over the country and get to meet some really interesting people. Well, I was in Lubbock, Texas, visiting beat and bow companies. They're a construction company, build a couple of thousand homes a year. And they also have Kingdom at Work as a part of the company of how to train and activate business people to partner with God, engage with the kingdom of God in your business. And while I was there, I bumped into this guy by the name of Jeff. And I don't know if you're alive or not, but if you have any, either in the States or a part of any kind of business system and have any benefits, you'll know that the United States health system is really, really messed up. And I got to see firsthand not just what Jeff's doing, but the results of that in a company. And I want you to know about that. But before we dive into this health alternative, this program, this plan that I know is going to give you hope and encouragement for what's possible, let's hear a little bit more about Jeff and his story of partnering with God. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me, Andy.
Tell us a little about who are you? Like, how would you define yourself, describe yourself? I know you're in Colorado, and so you love to run mountains, which must make you a high quality individual to start with.
Running mountains, maybe not. Driving mountains for sure. And yes, I'm an avid outdoor enthusiast. So Colorado is a wonderful place to live for that. But more importantly, I look at myself as the son of the Most High God, which is the greatest credentials I can have. I'm also a husband of 25 years to my beautiful bride, Melissa. Father of two fine young men, Seth and Ethan. I'm very proud to be their father. But I'm also a storyteller. And one of the things I really love is I'm a dreamer with Jesus. I take all my dreams and everything to him and let him add and expand and lead me to what his purpose is. So that's what I do. That's who I am.
So, two stories. One, what's your story to get you to where you are today, to doing what you're doing? The kind of the 2-minute version of that. And then secondly, and this possibly interweaves with it, what's your story of partnering with God at work and your experience of that?
Great question. Um, yeah, so I would kind of answer it like this. I would say, early on in my business career, I was a servant at heart. I would serve first. I would see the best in other people, and I was a little naive to the fact that that could lead to being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that. I had to kind of it actually wore on me enough that I started believing a false identity about myself, that I was a maverick and it was me versus the world and I was going to go take it on. So I wasn't afraid to take it on. I just wasn't looking to partner with other people to do it because of my past experiences. So that was a difficult one to overcome. But about 2 years, no, about actually take it back, about 6 years ago, I felt like God was asking me to talk more about Him in business. And we had a fine little argument about that because I'm in sales. And I said, that's not a good strategy. I'm trying to develop rapport and sell products, not talk to people about God. And he did not relent. And I lost that argument. And luckily for me, I've been talking to people about the Lord and it has opened up everything. It has been absolutely incredible. And it's led me to understand that I'm not actually a maverick, but I'm a unifier. I'm a gatherer of people, and I am now in my sweet spot building ecosystems and gathering people together to serve in whatever capacity God asks.
So, in terms of the partnership with God piece, I
hmm
mean, obviously, identifying some barriers for you to do that. Number one was if I, and what you sensed him saying to you, if I engage more openly and rather than my faith in my back pocket, have it up out front and central without being weird about it. Your belief was, yeah, this is going to be an adverse business experience. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you overcame that.
You know, so first of all, I had already seen very little of God, at least from what my perspective was in the business world. But what I realized, and you kind of said it earlier, don't do it in a weird way. I just started using kingdom concepts, kingdom principles, kingdom terms, and I found a lot of people gravitated toward those,
Wow.
which opened up wonderful faith conversations even deeper. But it's not really actually too difficult to talk about kingdom, in my opinion. You just have to be creative on how you do it, because there's a lot of formulaic people out there that are ready to receive the incorrect words and run with those. But it has opened up my mind to realize that there are a lot of people that share my heart and share my mind, and those are the people that I started gathering together to create ecosystems. It's been powerful.
So break it down a little bit more, Jeff. What does your walk with God in your workplace practically look like?
Wow, that's a good question. So basically, when I first started doing this as well, God kind of said, "Hey, in your business time, I need a little bit. I would encourage you to spend a little bit more time with me and a little bit less time on the phone." And as an entrepreneur and a salesperson and everything else, that didn't make sense. Spending time with God between 1 and 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I kept asking my wife, "It doesn't seem right. This seems odd." And she just said, "Stick with it." And she encouraged me the whole way through. And so I've been trying to breathe in the breath of God. I've been trying to listen to his voice. And I've been trying to, like I said earlier, dream with him, so that when people came knocking at the door, or when the opportunity presented itself, I recognized it. So I was getting those disciplines down to really follow him into this battle. And boy, is it a battle in healthcare, let me tell you.
It's so good. I mean, so number one is time, and number two is, I mean, you already mentioned this. I would call it being faith active rather than having a passive faith in the background. Actually, you brought it up front and central. It's interesting. I just had a conversation with someone over the weekend, and they work with businesses that say, I want to see more of Jesus in my workplace. I want to see more of the kingdom advancing, whether that's in language or just in a behavioral culture, the presence and power of God. And the first thing they do is they say, okay, before I'm going to work with you, you're going to take 30 days and you're going to start playing worship music 24/7 in your company. And now, there's ways of doing that wisely and smartly, depending on the environment, the workplace. And secondly, a minimum of 15 minutes a day listening to the voice of God, not just talking, but listening to what God has to say about your business. If you will do that, then I will spend time with you. And I just thought, you just said the same thing. Perhaps not the worship side, but the time. There's
Mhm.
something about time. I think God just has quality time as a love language. And he
Yes.
recognizes that we need that with him. So, Jeff,
I
you
I will say one last thing on that. One thing that my bride and I did, and once we knew this is a little bit more what we called, we started the reading the Bible out loud to each other,
oh, wow.
and we read it through in a year, and we were like, "Wow, that was really cool." So we've actually done that 6 years in a row now. So we've read the Bible out loud to each other, broken up in daily segments for 6 years now, and that's very helpful, obviously, to understand about the Bible and God's Word even better.
Wow. I've got friends of ours that do the same. I mean, and I haven't done that. That's a fascinating thing. But those are three real practical things. Is one is time, two, faith active. So, do not hide your faith in your workplace, and you'll be amazed. It actually opens up more conversations. Number three is with your spouse. There's something about that agreement too, but read the Bible out loud to one another. That's three things that Jeff's doing. Jeff, switch to, you're in the health industry space in sales. What's your journey into what we're doing? Isn't the health industry just a mess? Like, how could any believer that walks in any measure of truth be involved in this?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of them aren't. There is an epidemic that we call learned helplessness, and our desire, really, our big picture desire, is to help people understand and live out true human wellness. We'll talk about that throughout
Yeah.
this process, but that's our desire. And I have a real fun story to talk about this learned helplessness that I saw in the healthcare industry. I read a story a while ago about a psychiatrist that did an experiment with pike fish, and they took one and put it into an aquarium and fed that, put fish, other small little fish, goldfish, other things in that aquarium. And that pike was happy as heck eating all those fish. And then they put a glass divider into that aquarium and put the fish on the other side and the pike on one side. But the pike couldn't see the divider. So it kept trying to ram in and go get those fish. And they found something very, very interesting. At some point, that pike just stopped trying.
Yeah.
And it went over and laid in the corner. Then the psychiatrist took that glass away, and the fish were swimming all over right in front of the pike, bumping into the pike, everything. And that pike starved to death in that aquarium with food all around it because it learned helplessness.
Yeah.
And we see that happen way too often with employers.
So tell me more. How did you get involved in this industry to start with?
So it was a God thing. I was actually originally in the meat and poultry industry for many years and loved it and loved working in that industry, but it kind of consolidated and I had to pray and kind of ask God, what do you want me to do? And he asked me to go into the healthcare industry, and I thought that's not a good idea. Again, I have these arguments with the Lord. I lose, thank God, because if it was my plan, we wouldn't be here talking. But the reality is that he asked me to do it. I obediently went in and did it. And the first thing I saw was this is broken, but it's broken by design. So it's actually working perfectly the way the people that designed it want it to work. It's broken in our eyes, but it's working perfectly. And so what I did was as part of
Pause a moment. Jeff, go back a step.
Yeah,
You said you heard God say, you're in the poultry industry, get into healthcare. They're so different. But tell me about, how did you hear this is God speaking, and how did you know it was God?
By knowing His Word, by journaling and quiet time and prayer, and to be honest with you, part of my identity is strategy, ideation, maximizer. So whatever industry I was in, I knew I could use that to my advantage. I was using it, ironically, in the meat and poultry industry. I was serving people, I was helping people. Nobody thought I was a salespeople. They just thought I was the guy that got things for them, whatever it was. And that's what I did. So I learned, and I knew I could go into this industry because I knew some people in the industry, and I knew I could go in and bring some change. I just didn't know exactly what that looked like. And I didn't know, it's like looking at eating an elephant. You're like, where do you start? Or one of my favorite analogies, I felt like a mosquito in a nudist colony. I knew what I was there to do. I just had no idea where to start. And but over time, he showed me that this is what you need to be doing, and this is what it looks like. And it was very against the grain, but that's what he called me to do.
So how did he show you?
He actually put some very key people around me. There's strategically probably 5 to 10 people that I sensed to pay attention to these people, to listen to what was going on. And then, to be honest with you, I read an article in Forbes magazine in 2016, written by a guy named Dave Chase, who basically chronicled a company down in Florida who had been successfully slaying the high costs of the healthcare system and essentially providing almost free healthcare to their employees. And they've been doing it for decades. And,
Oh, wow.
and I read this article and I thought, why is everybody not reading this article? And I noticed there was like 200 reads of it or something. And I thought, and they actually in the article, Andy, spelled out the entire way to solve it. They gave it all away for free. Wow. And nobody paid attention.
So this is fascinating. I've got a similar story with a CEO sitting in London. And he's reading the newspaper, and it becomes apparent. He notices this tiny thing at the back that a patent for a particular worm pill had become generic, and he just has the thought, we should do that. And they do, and they eradicate disease out of an entire country. You're saying, you're sitting there, you're reading Forbes, and you see an article and it grabs your attention. So pay attention to what grabs your attention. If you listen to this, pay attention to that, follow that. And obviously Jeff's talking about he's deeply read or being read by the Word of God. And he's in a healthy relationship with his wife where they're actually discernment and doing this together. So you read this article in Forbes and it's the solution. It is the solution to this problem. And very little people are paying attention to it. So what did you do then?
So I called the company. I said, I'd like to come down and visit you. They're in Orlando. We have some dear friends in Florida that not far away. And so next time I was down there, we went and visited them. and I just went to serve them. Again, I went back to my original. I went to serve them. I wanted to learn. I wanted to do all of these different things. And you know what they did? They told me everything just like they did in the article. And what I did, Andy, is using my strategy and maximizer and strengths. I realized, wow, okay, they have done it. It's proven, but part of their process is pretty heavily manual.
Yeah.
So I had to look and talk to some of the people in my, in my circle and say, can we automate these programs? Can we make this more automated? And if so, then we can start bringing this to lots of more employers. A lot of employers that were doing things like this were larger companies. This company had to be 3,000 employees, but there's companies that have 75 employees that never have access to
Yeah.
something like this. And if you have automation, you can bring access to them.
So, I mean, I'm loving this. Just this. So, following the fingerprints of God, key people to connect to. You listen to them. You read this article. Then you take initiative, and then the initiative results in obviously an open door. So you follow through. You go to learn and to serve. And in that process, you identify a barrier or an opportunity. Like, this is business. You've just identified an opportunity for them and something that you could use elsewhere. So
Correct.
what's next?
Well, so then, so we had to go back and kind of study the history a little bit. And not too long ago, and not too galaxy distant far away, in America, employees paid very low deductibles. They paid very low premiums. Matter of fact, my dad worked for 35 years for Ford Motor Company. He paid almost nothing. Ford had wonderful benefits, wonderful programs. And that wasn't kept for some reason. And employers got a little lazy. They became like those pikes and they didn't believe it was possible. And now the number one cause for bankruptcy in America is medical debt.
Oh, man.
And employers have just kind of given up that fight like the pike. And now employees are facing huge deductibles. And what we learned is 60% of Americans are functionally uninsured, which means they have an insurance card in their pocket, but they don't pull it out because they can't afford the deductible. It's less than the money they have in the bank. And that is tragic. And we can reverse that. So that's why we just said, let's do something different.
Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not in the States or don't even have a direct, if you don't have a direct connection to this problem, that would be really surprising, because it's a massive cost to every company or individual. And like you said, people dying with an insurance card in their back pocket because they can't actually afford to pay the deductible. For people coming in, I grew up in New Zealand. My travel insurance for the first 3 years, we got insurance from New Zealand while we were in the States. That was cheaper than even the deductible from a standard insurance in the States. And I'm thinking, this is crazy broken. This is so, but anyway, so if you listen to this, pay attention not just to dealing with this problem, but pay attention to we are connecting, activating, training people to partner with God at work and engage in the well-being of the city. This is what Jeff is doing. It's what I would call him as a reformer. He's reforming a system. The kingdom of God gives you power over systems to make them better. And this process that we're actually unpacking of going to learn, of noticing key people in front of you, actually following the voice of God and stepping into that, anchored in the word of God, keeping this heart to learn and to serve, and identifying where's the gap, where's the situation, and then just saying, what can we do with it? This is proven, this is tested, we could use this, we could do something. I'm aware of the problem, learned helplessness, that's a barrier. So Jeff, you're working with this company or for this company. What do you do next?
Well, so what we did is we studied that their proven pattern, right? But we went out and met and found all the solutions that were out there to correct it, which was wonderful. There was tons of them.
Yeah.
The problem was the solutions were all working in silos, so they weren't banding together. So everybody was making a difference, but it was just, as I referred to, spitballs on a battleship. It was doing something, but nobody was turning their head. So we're trying to gather them all together. We are trying to gather together these shared heart, shared mind people into an ecosystem so that we can greater maximize the outcomes and the member experience, but do it together. do it together so we can benefit from economies of scale and multiplication and everything else that's offered in Kingdom.
So I'm loving these business principles in here that you're trying to work together. But break it down a little bit, Jeff. What actually is this? I mean, is this an alternative health? Give us an example of what is it that you're building?
So before I do that, I'd like to I throw out an analogy just so we can have it on the base before we get into this, because when you start talking about health insurance to people, they roll their eyes. They don't want to talk about it. It's not good. But what we did is we've studied out there what's going on, and as you said, your program was less than just the deductibles for people. We looked and said, wow, employers are paying country club golf course rates, but they're getting a public golf course experience. And so, they're getting high costs, they're getting low service, they're getting poor results. People are sick, if not getting sicker, but they're paying these exorbitant rates. So we kind of just looked around and said, why not give them the country club experience if they're already paying those rates? Why not improve the benefits? Why not make it zero cost for employees instead of these high deductibles that make them functionally uninsured? Why not white glove nurse advocacy services? Why not pharmacy programs that can help you reduce the pharmacy spend by 50 to 75%? Why not? And so we have to help employers understand that they can get a country club experience for the same price that they're paying right now.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to tell you, say that first. But when we study this employer, my question that I asked everybody else is, who else has zero deductible health care? You know what the answer was, Andy? Crickets.
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody. And so our clients are now moving toward nobody having, to declare bankruptcy for medical debt, nobody to go functionally uninsured.
And
so we took
3,000 employees with that company.
That one exactly. But we did the exact same thing with that company you talked about in Texas, and we did it for 300 employees. Well, they looked at us and said, "How come we've never heard about this before?" Sad part is,
which is exactly what I said, by the way. It's like, hang on, how come everybody's not jumping into this? The answer is learned helplessness. People don't believe, and I mean, I'm like, there's people right now watching this be like, hang on a moment. It's not going to cost me any more, and I can get zero deductible, and I can get a better result. We're in a nation, isn't this? How come we don't know about this?
So traditionally, and it's a great point, and you know what? It is. That's why the Pike story makes so much sense. It's just been learned. However, what we did find was the companies that were doing it right, they had 100% control of all of their medical and pharmacy claims data.
Yeah.
That has proven to be hard to do, but we've cracked that. We've worked with that company and others. So what we do is we help employers gain 100% control of their claims data, which allows them to shift those costs and improve the benefits of their employees by 3 to 4x, which is exactly that a country club experience we talked about. And then from there, because we always ask every employer, when your carrier shows up and says this is how much you spent every year, but gives you no details behind it, how as an employer are you supposed to get any type of insight? There's no insight there. It's all hidden. It's all opaque. So the insight comes from the transparency that we have by helping our clients get forensic control of the claim data. Then we can make the improvements that need to be done. And so we say, imagine having a dedicated nurse walking you all the way through every one of your personal episodes of care that you need. This is not a nurse that's doing the work on you. This is a nurse that's helping you navigate the healthcare system. Imagine learning how to reverse disease states to get people living healthy lives back in our real dream of true human wellness. We actually believe that if we get people to reverse disease states and get healthier, that could lift up GDP in our country.
Absolutely.
Imagine having access to pick the highest quality doctors for everybody's medical needs. Imagine having virtually no out-of-pocket cost for healthcare. This is what we're dreaming with these employers, and there's a cohort that's starting to believe it.
Yeah. So it's teaching a pike to eat the fish. And this the beauty is I've got to see that in place starting to happen. Tell me how this works.
So basically, if anybody wants to learn more, what they would do is they would reach out to us. We can explain it obviously in a little more detail we can get in more detail now here if you wanted to, but really in general, what we would do is our process is pretty simple. We try to streamline it because we want to respect people's time. So we would spend 15 to 30 minutes of talking about the value of controlling medical and pharmacy claims and what does that look like and how that can benefit somebody on the employer level. And then we then show them what it is that they can do. And if they like that conversation, we then show them the analytics system. We have a data command center that runs everything, and it feeds not only does it analyze all the information, it feeds it out to all of the cost containment programs that we have out there, and the nurse advocacy systems and everything. Because if you have the data and you control that flow, then everything else can come from it. So that's what we do. So the second meeting, we would probably show them that technology. And if they really like it and they're more curious, then we just say, great, talk to somebody that's doing it. Talk to an employer, the one in Texas, the one in Florida, others that are doing this, and ask them questions. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? The question everybody asks me on the belief side of it is, can it really be done? Will we be at greater risk? I've never heard something like this before. Is this snake oil? Blah, blah, blah. And the answer is we can prove it to you all the way across the board.
Here's the data.
The harder part is to get people to believe it's possible than actually showing them how it could be done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, which is just crazy. So, I mean, I love that you're doing this. I love that you're walking it through and real clear. Just to jump in now, how does someone get a hold of you if they want to say, I want a further conversation with you, which is obviously no cost to that.
No cost.
And the beauty is for everybody, seeing this in action, I'm like, well, hang on a moment, Jeff, how do you make money? Tell us, so how you set up in this. You don't own this. This is a health assurance, not health insurance. Tell us
Correct.
what you do and how do you set up your business so that you can still feed your family in this?
Yeah, so what we learned was health insurance is really sick care. That's treating people that have sickness, treating their symptoms, whatever that looks like. But unfortunately, they stay sick because they're just having their symptoms treated. Health assurance is well care. It is treating root cause problems, core issues, and whatever that looks like. And of course, also the financial part of it is very difficult. But the easiest way to reach out on email, or we can set up a Zoom or phone or anything like that. I can provide information. If you want me to tell you now, that's great. Yeah. If not, they can reach out to you, Andy, and ask that question. But more than happy to help. And again, what we want to do is we want to spread the education out there. We want people to know what their choices are. Yeah. And then they're intelligent. Everybody's intelligent enough to make their own choice. We're not convincing anybody of anything. We're just letting them know that there's a totally different way of doing this. And so that's it.
And so we'll put that in the contact below. And if you don't see that, certainly contact me and I can just connect you directly with Jeff. And just so you know, there's no benefit to me in this other than seeing more people brought into true health. So, and I love that. I love that approach of, hey, if you don't believe me, believe some of the people that I'm working with. Jeff, one of the conversations you and I had is I'm a solopreneur, like my wife and I in a company. We don't have 50 employees. And really, you were saying for this to really get going and have the momentum, there needs to be about minimum 50 employees. Is there a way to do this for more individuals?
Yeah. So the answer is, first of all, yes. You might not want, a smaller company might not be able to set up exactly what the 300 or the 3,000 life group did, but there are tons of ways to improve benefits for the same price that's being paid. No question, whether that's 5 employees or 5,000 employees, it totally can be done. We want to help everybody. So, we obviously know with economies of scale, the larger the company, the more you can help and do all of that. But we don't want to turn down anybody because we are solopreneurs as well. And so for us, when having a small company, we want to get that same type of coverage, and we're working every day to try to do that. And so we have systems for everybody, but really what we're talking about with that true, top to bottom white glove experience health assurance is probably more like 25 employees or higher. Okay. We're putting together a couple programs, a couple captives, and ways for other smaller groups to join and be part of it. So we're trying to create this for everybody because it shouldn't just be for the larger groups.
And so for someone listening and they're not sure what a captive is, what is that?
So basically, what we're doing is we're setting up our own insurance company in a way. We're inviting you to come in. So what that means is that Blue Cross or United or Cigna or Aetna or any of those companies offer out an insurance plan that goes out to people. Where we're offering a health assurance plan, and you would just come into our program, but instead of setting it up individually for 5 or 10 people, we have a total group that they can join. So we might have 500 life groups in there, and we have 2,500 people. Well, guess what? The good news is we have economies of scale.
Yeah.
We can now start building it, so they can act and be part of a larger group if they want to. So that's what we're talking about in that.
Yeah.
But if they call, I can explain it further.
Yeah. So option one, if you've got, a decent number of employees, then directly do this. But
Yep.
option two is that effectively, I would call it a cooperative in
Cooperative, correct?
some form, where actually you're combining with other solo entrepreneurs or small businesses to work together to get the overall advice. Jeff, and how do you benefit? How do you guys make money in the process?
Well, basically, right now, employers are buying insurance from somebody. And if they're going to turn around and work with us to do health assurance, then they stop paying that person to buy insurance from them, and they start paying us to buy in assurance from us.
Yeah.
So it's really no extra cost than what they're paying right now. So we're saying at no extra cost, we can help you go from insurance to assurance, and at no extra cost, we can improve those benefits by 3 or 4x. So it's all for what's being paid for right now. There's nothing else that changes hands. It's just a different way of approaching it.
And I love it. And I got to see that in action. So, Jeff, thank you so much. I love your journey with God. I love your passion to help people. Like you were saying, is true health or true wellness, human wellness, and dealing with lies in any form of reformation or reforming something and making it better. We're going to deal with the barriers, which is, well, we've already always done it this way. The beauty is I got to see it in action and see the benefits of that and where it can go. Either A, the company saves money, B, they use that money to, in the case that we were talking, potentially build their own direct, what do you call it, primary care, health, physical facility that then they could offer also to certain parts of the community. The opportunity here is endless if someone is willing to take the initiative. And so thank you for doing that. Any final words?
No, when we talk about true human wellness, we lovingly, affectionately refer to 4 points in that. That is nutrition, hydration, movement, and inner peace. And if we can help people learn that and move toward that, they're going to get healthy no matter what. And then, of course, we want to get them the care for way less money and a much better experience. And it's totally doable. It's actually being done as we speak. So that's the best part about it. But thank you for having me on, Andy. It's a pleasure. It's great to get to know what Heaven in Business is doing and how they're making an impact out there. And we're happy to have conversations with anybody who wants to learn more.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Have a great day, Andy.